With Trimble Business Center, you can import in over 100 different file types. This way you can review the data before sending it out to the field. Some of the typical files that I can import in are DGN files of my design. Now, you can drag and drop them in, or you can simply click on the import command. If I drag and drop them in, I can drag and drop multiple file types such as DWGs and even land XML files. So when I drag and drop them in, Business Center will process that data, and you'll see that we can review it in both a 2D view or a 3D view. In the 3D view, you can orbit and pan around and zoom. You can turn on and off layers and or surfaces and other data that has been imported in. You can see if I turn off the surfaces, in this case I can even see the utility information from the land XML file for this project that's been imported. Once you have data in your Trimble Business Center project, you can review and look for errors. You can see that Business Center will flag areas where there's an issue with your surface, such as a crossing break line. You can see you'll get a warning, and then you can identify and review it. There's actually a pane as well where you can look and see the different errors that may exist in your project. You can also review the properties of an object, and you can do that by selecting the object and look at the properties pane, and you can see that you've got some information over here. You can see some length data, stationing and coordinates. If you use the Explore Object command, you can come in and look at station and offset information. So if I was to click here, you can see that I can look along that line. I can see what the station is, the offset information is. You can also change the names of objects. So if you were staking out, let's say, this curb and gutter, I can select that line and I can look at not only the total length of that object, I can edit the elevation as well as change the name. So I can come in here and I can call this CG6. So this is in preparation possibly for exporting out to the field. Once you've reviewed your data, you can then export it out to the field using the construction data workflow. You can set up your job, create your designs, and even create your work orders to send this data out to your machines or to your survey controllers. To see all the commands in the Trimble Business Center viewer, get the Knowledge app. You can get the Knowledge app by going to trimble.retrieve.com and clicking on the Viewer Knowledge app, or K app. From here you can see a list of all the commands available in the software, as well as get the Knowledge app and see all the videos associated with each command. With the Field Data Edition, when you import your data, you can process your survey data for a field to finish operation. So under the Survey tab, if I process my feature codes, you'll see that it will automatically draw the line work. If we take a look at the 3D view, you can see that the line work has been elevated to the survey shots, and in this case, based on the proper coding, it's actually created the offsets for my top and back of curb just from a single survey shot. In the Field Data Edition, you also have the capabilities of carrying out basic CAD drawing and editing commands, such as drawing or editing with the line string. If I use the powerful line string in Business Center, I can create that line string and place it on a layer. I can draw in both the 3D view as well as the 2D view. So you can see here that I can complete the curb information that my surveyors didn't pick up. You can draw straight lines or change the segment type to a series of arcs. You can use Kogo commands to grab the information, such as a radius of an arc from another object. You can choose the direction that it's going to be placed, and then I can pick the end of the line. The elevation gets carried through the vertex of the corner of the curb based off the elevations of the start and end points. I can then use other editing tools like trimming or breaking objects. So if I wanted to trim an object, I could come in here and select the line that I want to trim by picking the bounding line and then selecting the object that I want to trim. Other editing commands include the offset command. So to complete the parking stalls I have here, I can select the layer and select the line that I want to offset, as well as select the distance. You can see that I can just pick a distance from the object and then choose which side I want to offset it to. and click apply. You can also offset in 3D, but I can just keep clicking apply and offset the rest of these objects. You can also create text and insert blocks. So if I wanted to label objects, such as maybe the parking area, I could come in and select a height and a style and enter in the text that I want to use. And when I drop in that parking area or that piece of text, you can see that I can label that object. You can use some grip editing. So if I wanted to rotate the orientation, I could do that, as well as pick the grips and move the object around. To insert a block, I can simply use the insert block command after the blocks have been imported. So if I wanted to add a handicap parking stall, I could come in here and choose that block and select the location where I want to place that block. With the Field Data Edition, you can also export out close to 30 or more different file types. This way you can support your other team members. So you can export to different CAD file formats, you can export to different survey file formats, different GIS file formats, as well as construction formats. To learn more about Trimble Business Center, specifically the Field Data Edition, you can go to the Trimble library, and on the Trimble library you can click on the Field Data Edition Knowledge app. If you go to trimble.retrieve.com/store and click on Featured, you'll see a knowledge app for each edition of Trimble Business Center. If you click on the Field Data Edition, you'll see a listing over to the right of all the content that's available in this knowledge app. If you click the free button, this knowledge app will be added to your Trimble library. If you don't have a Trimble library account, you'll be prompted to create one. As you would expect in the Surface Modeling Edition, you have the ability to create, edit, and analyze your surface information. To create a surface, it's fairly simple to come in and you give it a name, you give it a classification, you can assign a color, a date, and then select your members. And you can select your members by layer or simply selecting them from the screen. Here I'm going to pick the objects by layer. And as you'll notice, this is a very large data set and Business Center handles it quite well. So with just a few clicks, I can have a surface that is created. As you'll notice, that Business Center will flag any errors in your surface, such as crossing break lines, so that it makes it easy to identify and fix. When you have two surfaces, such as an original design surface or original ground surface and a finished ground surface, you can use those two surfaces to create a cut fill map. When you select the surface that you want to compare, whether it's the original ground or the subgrade surface, run the command and it will generate a cut fill map. And here you can see in the cut fill map, the color shading can be manually controlled, as well as labels can be placed to determine where your cuts and fills are going to happen. You can also work with point clouds. So if you were able to bring in a scan from a UAV or from a terrestrial based scanner, you can manipulate the point cloud. You can select a cloud and keep in or keep out certain portions of the data, or use the scan to CAD to reduce the amount of data that you have. So if I was to come in and select a window just in this area, I could choose the sampling spacing. So if I wanted to, I could create a point, in this case every 5 feet, and you'll see when I click apply, I'm going to get a CAD point every 5 feet within this area that then I could use to build a surface. So from that scan, you can see I've created and generated a bunch of CAD points that I can use to create a surface. Once you have a surface created, you can also report on that surface. We have an earthwork report command. That earthwork report will report a stockpile or depression information, surface to surface information, or surface to a specific elevation. If we did a stockpile report, such as this case here, we have this Curtis Cell stockpile, and we run that report, it's going to generate an earthwork report that provides us with the volume information about this stockpile. In the Surface Modeling Edition, you also have the ability to create and edit horizontal and vertical alignments. You can convert existing line strings into alignments or use the table to enter in the horizontal or vertical data. If we were to come in here and add another arc, with a curve radius and a location for the endpoint, you'll see that it will continue drawing in that horizontal alignment. In the vertical tab, we can then come down here and actually manipulate this vertical information, or use the vertical tab to modify and edit the information as well. So if we want to change the PI of this particular point, we could do so. To learn more and see all the commands found in the Surface Modeling Edition, go to trimble.retrieve.com/store and then look at the Surface Modeling Knowledge app. If you look here, you'll see all the commands that are available, and you can get the free Knowledge app and add it to your Trimble library. If you don't have a Trimble library account, you'll be prompted to set one up. With the Survey Intermediate edition of Trimble Business Center, it provides you the capabilities to import, manage, and geo-reference images such as a PDF like you see here. Using a couple of coordinates, I can enter the pixel location as well as the coordinate value for that particular point and click register, and it will geo-reference my image, in this case the PDF, into my project. Once I've done that, I can simply select the image, right click, and import the vector PDF data. You got some options that you can choose, and when you click import, what I'm doing here is converting this PDF image into vector data that I can use for takeoff, data prep, or other purposes. As you can see, once it's imported, it brings in all the layers of the PDF, and I can turn off the image, and now I have vector data that I can manipulate, list, edit, and modify as needed. The Survey Intermediate Edition also provides the capabilities for dimensioning and labeling your project. So in this example, I've got some parcels that I want to add the area to. I've named them all with a lot number. I can then go to the polygon command, and we'll just select a layer here for the text. We can put a rotation angle in, and we can select individual polygons, or we can select multiple polygons. So if I was just to select these polygons and pick add, you can see that I've labeled each lot with its name and square footage. I can also label the lines, so if I wanted to come in here and put in the bearings and distances for each parcel or in each segment, I could do that as well. So here I'm just going to pick a parcel, and when I pick the parcel and select add, you can see that I'm labeling each segment, and I can repeat that process for the other parcels. In the Survey Intermediate Edition, you can also perform an office site calibration, importing in your control points and your geodetic points to calculate the calibration. You can also import your survey traverse and do a traverse adjustment, whether you want to do a transit or compass rule adjustment. In addition, you can do a network adjustment or least squares. You can also process your survey GNSS baselines. So the Survey Intermediate Edition provides you with all the tools you need to reduce and process your survey data. To learn more about Trimble Business Center and the Survey Intermediate Edition, you can go to the Trimble library and get the Survey Intermediate Knowledge app. If you go to trimble.retrieve.com/store, click on Featured, and you'll see the Survey Intermediate Knowledge app. If you click on this, it'll list and show you all the commands that have an associated video with those, and you can click on Get Free to add this Knowledge app to your Trimble library. If you don't have a Trimble library account, you'll be prompted to set one up. The Trimble Business Center Survey Advanced Edition introduces us to macros, or otherwise known as TMLs, Trimble Macro Language. Macros are either provided by our Trimble developers, or they can be written and provided by third-party developers. They provide additional functionality to Business Center that the shipping product may not already have. An example might be this Find Surface area. And what this will allow me to do is select the surface that I'm interested in and choose how I want to find the information. So for example, if I want to find by the break line of the infield that I have here of my ballpark. I can come in here and click on there, and you can see here that it gives me the plan and the surface area as well as the plan area and the number of triangles. You can even create text and label that area. If I go to any other area, you can see here I can come in and pick the outfield, I can pick the pond, and it's giving me the area. I can also switch to texture edges and come in here and pick the infield, and you can see that it goes over the break line and gives me the area of the infield dirt in this case, or in this case the circle around home plate. In the Survey Advanced Edition, we also have the capabilities of creating and designing corridors. A corridor can be a road, trail, and in this case a runway. You can create a corridor from a horizontal and vertical alignment that you see here, as well as a series of instructions that will define the typical cross-section. You can also apply and put in the materials for the corridor, and you'll see here as I use this slide bar, I can scroll down the corridor or road and see the material volume and values appear in my cross-section editor view. We also have the ability to publish and create sheet sets within the Survey Advanced Edition. So an example might be setting up your detail sheets or your cover sheets and defining your template. The data that populates the template can come from your project settings such as you see here. You can also create plan sheets, section sheets, and even plan and profile sheets. To create the section sheets, you have your title block set up like I have here and simply click on Build Sheets. After a couple seconds, you can see here that it lists all the sheets. In this case, they're labeled by the station, and you can either right click and view that sheet or simply pick it from this list. If I pick it from the list, you'll see that it changes the view of the sheet. So all these cross sections were automatically built in just a matter of seconds. There's also a series of COGO routines where you can input deed information, create a parcel, do a map check, as well as create a legal description. With the Survey Advanced Edition, you have the ability to create a projected surface. A traditional surface looks something like this when created from a point cloud, specifically of a rock ledge or overhangs. By using a projected surface, you can set a view plane and create that surface in a non-horizontal fashion, depicting a more realistic rock face to use for monitoring or volume computation. To see all the commands found in the Survey Advanced Edition, get the Survey Advanced Knowledge app. If you go to trimble.retrieve.com/store, click on Survey Advanced, you can see a list of the commands available on the right hand side under Content. To get the app, click on Free. If you don't have a Trimble library account, you'll be prompted to set one up. The Site Modeling Edition of Trimble Business Center provides a very powerful project cleanup tool. This cleanup tool will fix a lot of issues that you may have from importing CAD data or importing a vector PDF. Many times you want to remove the hatch patterns. You may have broken lines that you want to join. You may have data that's on different elevations that you want to flatten, as well as even duplicate objects that you want to remove. Running the project cleanup tool, you can select what options you want to clean up, even get rid of unused layers, blocks, text, and dimensions. Simply click Apply either to the entire project or only a selection of the project. And upon completion, you'll notice that layers have been removed, the 3D data has been flattened, the hatch patterns have been removed, your lines have now been joined, and your duplicate objects have been removed. When you insert a PDF image and then import the vector data, you have to elevate that data because it doesn't maintain or carry the 3D information. To do this, you can use the Elevate Contour command, set the interval, and set the current elevation of the contour you want to elevate. Then simply select one of the contours. You can see here this is 514 and this is 516. And by doing those two, you'll see that the contours now get elevated. And they also change color based on the display options. Then you can switch over to the Contour by Crossing command and simply just drag your cursor or drag a line across the other contours, crossing the two that you've already previously elevated. By doing so, you can see that I can quickly elevate all these contours in little time. The Site Modeling Edition of Trimble Business Center provides tools to quickly create a subgrade. You start by using the MSI or Material Site Improvement Manager and define your materials, such in this case we have grass or we have pavement such as concrete. You then define the site improvement. The site improvement basically sets up your layers. So for the field, in the green or grass area, you can see that we're going to apply some turf at a certain thickness. We're going to apply a sand mix and some stone also at thicknesses. So our subgrade in this case is going to be 11 inches below our finished grade. Then you simply apply your site improvements to your surface. I'm going to apply the grass field to the ballpark here. So I'm going to come down and choose green field and then simply pick where I want that site improvement to be applied. Upon completing the site improvement, you simply create the subgrade. We'll give it a name, we'll choose the reference surface, and then we'll choose where we want the surface to be created at. You can see that we can choose any of the materials we defined or simply go to the bottom of the engineered materials. And you'll see that we get a new surface, and down here in our surface slicer, you can see the gray line has adjusted that surface to accommodate for the subgrade. With the Trimble Business Center Site Modeling Edition, you can pull data that has been mapped by the machines out on your project site. Clicking on the Create Machine Data Overlay, you select the overlay type that you want to create. It can be pass count, it can be cut fill, it can be elevation. In this case, we'll select elevation. I can also define an area. So if I'm only interested in what's happening with this pond, I can choose the boundary around that pond. I can also filter by machine or by date time range. I can then also choose the elevation type, whether I want last, first, highest, or lowest. And click Create, you'll see that it's going to create an overlay for the area of interest. From there, I can create the machine data surface. It may take a minute depending on the amount of data that you're importing and using to create that surface. Once it's done processing, you'll see that I have a surface as well as a point cloud created from that data. To see all the commands found in the Site Modeling Edition, get the Knowledge app. Go to trimble.retrieve.com/store, click on Site Modeling. From here, on the right hand side, you can see a list of all the commands available, as well as get the Knowledge app where you can actually see a video of each command. The Trimble Business Center Site Construction Edition provides the commands to import a CAD file of cross sections and build a corridor from those sections. When you run the Create from CAD command, you select the alignment that you want to use. You'll then provide the other information such as what layers the CAD data it resides on, like the grid, the cross section, as well as the station and grid elevation information. Select Apply, and you'll see that Business Center will create the stored cross sections, which then we can use to create and build a corridor surface. If you're also just provided PDF cross sections, you can also use Trimble Business Center to digitize those cross sections by defining the grid and then selecting the lines for your finished design, your subgrade, and even your materials. This will then create a stored cross section which we can use to build a corridor surface. The Site Construction Edition of Trimble Business Center provides all the tools you need to do a earthworks and materials site takeoff. This includes defining your topsoil, your strata and your boring information, as well as identifying your site regions. Once you've set up the Material Site Improvement Manager with your materials and your site improvements, you can then come in here and start selecting the areas to apply those improvements. So if I was to add in a topsoil, and we just call this sod, and select the locations where I'm going to place this material or this site improvement, you'll see that Business Center fills in the areas that you want to apply that site improvement to. Once that's complete, you then run the takeoff report. In the takeoff report, you can choose different options and account for shrinkage and bulkage. Business Center will generate your subgrade surfaces with all your site improvements, as well as account for your topsoil strip, as well as generating the report that will provide you information about your earthwork, along with all the breakdown of all the site and material information that you're going to need for your project to include cost if you apply it. With the Trimble Business Center Site Construction Edition, you'll get tools to create site mass haul analysis. This can be used to determine the most efficient distribution of in situ earthing material from cut zones to fill zones. The mass haul analysis will help you estimate the earthwork cost for transforming your existing surface to a design surface. You can see here that we can define our earthwork sites. Our earthwork sites can be waste sites, borrow sites, or processing sites, as well as defining our haul roads. Once we set up this information and define your haul zones and run the analysis, you can then get a report. That report will show you details and a breakdown of how you're moving your material from what zone to what zone, and even a cost associated with it. To learn more about Trimble Business Center and the Site Construction Edition, get the Knowledge app. You can get the Knowledge app by going to trimble.retrieve.com/store, select Site Construction, and over to the right under Content, you can see all the commands available in this edition. And then click on the Get Free button to add the Site Construction Edition to your Trimble library. If you don't have a Trimble library account, you'll be prompted to set one up. The Trimble Business Center Infrastructure Construction Edition provides some advanced tools for working with highway type or long linear type projects. One of the major features in this edition is the corridor mass haul functionality. With the corridor mass haul functionality, you can come in and define your haul ranges for your equipment. You can define your waste and borrow sites as well as your processing sites, along with all your haul roads. When you run the corridor earthwork, you can then also view the mass haul diagram. You can auto balance your site, and when you auto balance a site, you can choose what type of materials that you want to balance. And then from there, you can select the haul ranges, and when you pick that haul range, you can look at the properties, and you can see some information such as the amount of material that's being cut, where it's exporting to, the cross haul, the balance, and the no haul values. You can see here in the plan view, it's showing you where the material for this truck offsite is going to take the material to the processing plant, and then what it doesn't process is going to take and send over to the waste plant. After you run your analysis, you can also do many different reports, such as the corridor mass haul report. The corridor mass haul report will provide you a detailed report of your mass haul analysis. You can run a balance line report. That balance line report will also provide you with detailed information of your analysis, providing you your balance summary, your balance details, as well as your material volumes. The Trimble Infrastructure Construction Edition also provides powerful tools for creating and editing parametric intersections. An example would be here where I have a series of alignments that intersect and I want to create a roundabout. Simply by selecting the alignments, clicking the Create Intersection command, entering a name, and clicking Apply, you'll see that Business Center will automatically create a four-way intersection and even adjust the vertical information of the incoming tangent segments and legs. If I didn't want a four-way intersection and I actually wanted a roundabout, I can select on the center grip here, go to the properties, and change it from an X to an O, and now you'll see that I have a roundabout. I can also come in here and change any of the parameters. So if I wanted to add a curb island, I simply select the grip for the road leg, come over to the properties, and adjust for a roundabout island. You can also even add in a walking path on the curb island. So if I was to come in here and set a walking path of 5, I can also adjust the curb height. So if I have a relief of a half a foot curb, you can see here that I can modify that and my curb will readjust. So by adjusting the properties of the intersection, you can parametrically change the design as needed. To see all the commands in the Infrastructure Construction Edition, get the Knowledge app. Go to trimble.retrieve.com/store and select the Infrastructure Construction Knowledge app. From here, on the right hand side, you can see all the commands available and click on the Get Free button to add this Knowledge app to your Trimble library. If you don't have a Trimble library account, you'll be prompted to set one up. To learn more about what Trimble Business Center can do for you, contact your local SciTech dealer.